Hello. Thank you for joining in here. This video is for members of TS210. Um, so today I just want to do a quick video to introduce the idea, the key idea concept. Now, hopefully, I'm recording this on Monday before our class, so hopefully in class we cover it. But I'm just gonna kind of do a little overview, even if it duplicates what we talked about, because I think it might be helpful for you to have it to write your paper. So the key idea is basically this: um, you uh, to study theology, you have to think in categories. You know, theology. It'd be really nice if we could just um, understand God fully and just comprehend Him comprehensively, but that's not usually how it works. Instead, we have to, and this is God's design, use the minds that He's given us in order to um, kind of parse out who He is based on how He's revealed Himself through the scriptures. And this usually means that we use categories and ideas, and inevitably, uh, how we understand God is shaped through our backgrounds and how we were saved and the people who influence us. And this is, you know, not a bad or a good thing, I don't think. It just is what it is. And so the key idea paper is meant to get you thinking about a couple of things. First of all, you know, you who are you theologically? Where did you come from, so to speak? You know, who are your influences? How did your upbringing influence you? How does your church now influence you? How do your passions, the people that you like to read, the people that you don't like to read, how does that influence how you think about God? So knowing that for your paper, then I'll ask you to wrestle with that for a little bit, and then kind of nail down what is the key idea, what is like the hook that you hang the rest of your theology on, or maybe another metaphor is like what is the center of the hub of the wheel of your theology around which everything else goes, and I'll ask you to show that from Scripture why that is a relevant theme in and of itself, and how does that idea influence other areas of Scripture or inform other areas of Scripture? Let me give you an example, and we'll talk about these in class more. A good one, I think, is Martin Luther. Really, obviously, famous theologian Martin Luther. Um, Luther was influenced by his context in some really obvious ways, right? He's at the brink of the Reformation, and some corruption in the church, and some personal misunderstandings on his part of what it means to be saved um, by grace through faith. And obviously, there were some practices in the church at that time that were, you know, leading some to think that justification could be bought or could be earned. Now that's a caricature, of course, of the, I don't. It's impossible to caricature the church or even caricature Luther. But generally speaking, that background influenced him. He has a lot of writings here. I've got in my lap here a lovely book that we'll look at some. It's Christian Theology by Alistair McGrath, and he has a great writing that we'll talk about more in class about Luther. I lost my page actually. A great writing about Luther. Um, and a little blurb here is that Luther, you know, prior to his big change of heart, Luther could only interpret the righteousness of God as a punishing righteousness, like a purifying righteousness. But one of the big changes for him, one of the big changes for Luther, was when he started to understand Romans 5, 1 to 2, which led him to this kind of understanding of that the precondition, I'm reading here, the precondition for divine acceptance is provided by God, who graciously gives sinners what they require if they are to be justified. And so the key idea for Luther is justification by faith alone. That now that doesn't mean that Luther didn't talk about anything else. If you were to read Luther, you could find all kinds of other subjects that he talked about. But if you dig and you look carefully, you can kind of see that a lot of what Luther says is informed by this central idea. He the idea that you are justified by faith alone influenced the way he thought about evangelism, influenced the way he thought about missions, influenced the way he thought about the church and the way it should operate. And that is the essence of the key idea for him. Um, for me, when I was doing the same project when I was in school, I I talked about the idea how God is a sovereign, holy redeemer. And a lot of this is for me. It came from my background. First of all, I grew up in a church where God was held very highly, where the scriptures were held very highly, which I think probably many of us come from that kind of background. Um, but then when I came to college, I was introduced to people like John Piper and Matt Chandler, and people like that, more of the Reformed camp of people who um, who hold the holiness and sovereignty of God as very central. Uh, and that really influenced me as I did this project for myself. I started to realize how much that influenced the way I thought about everything, for good or for bad. It was that idea that God is sovereign and holy, but also this idea that He is Redeemer. It's not just that He's um, some God up in the clouds where He's you know puppeteering the world. It was that He is taking the brokenness of things and making them whole. Uh, Another way to say it is that he's sovereign and holy. So what? Like, what does God do with that? Well, he does it the way he what he does with that is to redeem. That's if that makes any sense. And so when I did my own kind of exercise on this, and again, we'll talk about this more fully in class, uh, our week 2 class. We'll talk about it more fully. Um, I started to see how that kind of like drove other areas of my theology, how it created some blind spots, also how it, um, and also the benefits of it. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is this: everyone, I think, has a key idea, and what I'm asking you to do this week is to start thinking about what your key idea might be. A good way to come at this is to just start thinking about who you are. Who are your influences? Where did you grow up? What is really important to you when you think about God? When the idea of the Father comes to mind, what idea comes to your mind? Uh, and when you think of the Son, when you think of Jesus, what connotation do you get? This is going to start to tell you what your key idea is. Now, I'm not looking in this, there's no like right answer in this assignment, right? Um, and I don't want you to stress over like, oh man, did I get my key idea exactly right? That's not the point. The point, I want you to try hard to do that. But the point, I hope, is for your own personal kind of self-reflection to understand yourself as a minister of the gospel and as a theologian as you begin this class. In a couple weeks, we're going to start talk about um, contextualization and how our biases influence us. And I think this is the first step in understanding that. We've got to understand ourselves if we're going to really approach theology from as even a ground as we can, as objectively as we can. Um, so I hope this is the first step in wrestling and self-reflection of what it means um, to approach God. I don't know who said this, but someone really smart once said, "The extent to which you know yourself is the extent to which you can know God." And I think that what that person meant by that, and how I take it, is you can learn systematic theology. Like, you could read systematic theology books all day, right? And you would learn a lot. But to really know God in a personal way and in a well-rounded, healthy way is to know yourself and to know what you're bringing to the table, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Um, so that's the assignment. This is just an introduction. Hopefully, we've talked about this in class some. And in week 2, we'll really wrestle some more. I'm going to release the rubric after the first class, maybe like Thursday, Friday. Um, and so you can start working on your paper. So please reach out if you need any clarity or if you have any questions. Like I said, hopefully we've talked about this in our week 1 class. In week 2, I hope to give you some more examples and have some even more discussion about it, to give you some ideas of what your key idea might be. Okay, so hopefully this helps. But again, please always email me if you have any questions, or you can. I'll give you my number. You can call or text or whatever you want to do. But I'm excited to see where this takes us all. So thanks for watching. Hope you have a good day, evening, wherever you are when you watch this video. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.